What's up, Bling Crew? Welcome back. It is Shannon with Bling Your Things, and today I'm going to show you how to make this really cute Valentine's themed coffee mug from a rhinestone pattern. Now, this is the project that was in our first Bling box of 2025. And if you're new to Bling Your Things, you might be asking, well, what is a Bling box? So every month we curate a themed project that includes everything you need except for the glue, so that you can create that project and spend more time rhinestoning and less time searching for rhinestones and supplies. So I'm going to show you how to use a printed pattern to recreate your design and how to place your rhinestones on the tumbler. I'm going to show you tips and tricks on how to keep your row straight, placement tips. We'll talk about glue placement, and things like that. And don't worry, I will put a link to all of the products that I've used in today's video in the description down below. And if you haven't already, I would love it if you could give this video a thumbs up and go ahead and subscribe to our channel so that you are notified of our new tutorials. So without further ado, let's go ahead and dive into this project. For this project, we're going to be using a MakerFlo 12-ounce pink coffee mug. This is their powder-coated version. They do include a tumbler care card as well as the lid, and it also comes in its own individual box. For rhinestones, we're using our line of flatback rhinestones. The colors that you need for this project are neon light pink, neon white, metallic black, neon light purple, as well as pod parashita. These are all in size SS16. Then you can go over to the pattern section of our website and grab the Love Cascade pattern. And don't worry, yours will be in color. Mine is in black and white because at this point I was still making a few tweaks to the pattern. Now let's walk through how to use and follow your pattern. You're going to read this the same way that you read a book, from left to right. And with this coffee mug, since it does have the handle for the pattern, you want the first stone to line up with the left side of the handle. So the first stone that we're going to be placing should be placed so that it aligns with and where we're starting on the left side of the handle, right at the top of the coffee mug. I'm going to start with applying a small line of glue. For glue, I am using Super-Tite Fusion Tack, and I'm using a 5 ml syringe with a 20 gauge blunt tip needle. Now, if you are using the syringe, you can hold it in a couple different ways. You just have to figure out what's more comfortable for you. Normally, I hold it so that I'm pushing the plunger with the palm of my hand. You can also hold it so that you're wrapping all of your fingers around it and then using your thumb to push the plunger. Again, it's really just up to you on what's more comfortable on how you hold it. So now that we know how to hold the syringe, we're just going to place a small line of glue. Again, you don't need a lot of glue. A good glue to stone ratio to think of is that the amount of glue that you use should be about half the size of the rhinestone that you're using. Then we're going to place our rhinestones in the same color order as they appear on the pattern, again going from left to right. Now, placing this first row, we're going to place them as close as we can to the top rim of the tumbler, trying to keep them in a straight line. But don't put too much emphasis on making sure that they are completely straight as you are placing them. I'm going to show you a trick here in a minute to ensure that you're able to place this first row completely straight. And having this base row straight is super important because it's going to set up the alignment and the tone for the rest of your tumbler. Another thing that you want to keep in mind with this tumbler or any other tumbler is when you're placing your stones, you want to place them close together, but at the same time, you don't want them to be super tight. Depending upon the tumbler, as is the case with this one, sometimes you will need to go back and evenly space out all of your stones to fit the tumbler as well as fit the pattern correctly. So when you get to the end of a row, if it looks like you can fit one more stone compared to what is on the pattern, but there's not enough space, if you place another stone, which would be more than what's on the pattern, don't do it. Your rhinestones need room to breathe, and you need a little bit of room so that you can make adjustments in your stone placement as you're going along. If you were to add additional stones than what the pattern calls for, it's going to mess up how the pattern lines up at the seams, and it's no longer going to be seamless. So all you're going to do is you're going to use your wax pencil, and you're going to go back and you're going to add some spacing, just a tiny bit of spacing in between all of the stones to try to get them evenly spaced on this first row. Now, here's the tip I was telling you about earlier. This is the trick on how to get your first row of rhinestones straight. So what you're going to do is you're going to place your tumbler against a flat surface, and you're going to push all of your stones so that they touch that flat surface. And so you can see this better. I am just using this wood blank so that you could see at this angle. So you want the surface that you're putting it up against to be flat, and then you're going to use your wax pencil, and you're just going to push all of these stones so that they align with that flat surface. This is going to ensure that all of your stones have the same starting point and that they all line up. Now, the easiest way for you to do this is to simply place your tumbler upside down, then gently push all of the rhinestones so that they're touching your table or your workstation. You don't have to use a lot of pressure, just use the edge of the wax tip pencil and gently push them so that they're all aligned with the table. After you get this step completed, you're going to go back and visually inspect the stones to make sure that they look good. So just turn your tumbler to the side, look at it from different angles, and make sure that visually everything appears to be lined up. And if you need to make additional adjustments, you can do that with your finger or just use your wax tip pencil again. Now we can start working on the second row, and you can place your glue in a few different ways. You can do either a straight line or one dot of glue for each stone. Like we said before, the rule of thumb with your glue, and especially with the glue dots, is that the amount of glue that you're using should be about half the size of the stone size that you're using. This is not only going to help you with glue control so that the glue is not oozing out around the sides of the stone, just potentially clouding them. It's actually creating a more secure bond to each of the rhinestones because you're creating an individual bond with each of the stones. I sometimes go back and forth between placing individual dots and lines. It all just kind of depends what kind of flow I'm in with working on that tumbler. Now with the second row, we're placing each of these stones in between the space that was created with the stones in the first row. So the type of fill pattern that is used on the Love Cascade pattern is called a honeycomb pattern. And it's called a honeycomb pattern because it looks very similar to like what a bee's honeycomb would look like. So you're going to create each row where you're placing the rhinestones so that they touch on two sides. And then the next row that you place, those stones are going to be placed into the gaps that were created from the prior row. So you're kind of like placing them down and shifting them over a little bit so that they align in the center of the two stones in the prior row. Now, just how we went back with the first row and added a little bit of space in between the stones, we want to do the same thing with the second row and all of the preceding rows. We don't want to be packing or pushing or cramming the stones in the second row into that little space that was created in the previous row. Remember, your stones need room to breathe, so you don't want to be packing or shoving the stones in this row into the gaps that were created with the previous row. You need to allow a slight bit of room so that you can make adjustments as you're going along in order to keep your rows straight. If you pack all of your stones tightly into each row, as you progress with the pattern and place more rows, you're going to start to notice that your lines will become not straight. They're going to look all like roller coastery-ish, and your spacing is not going to be even. And then you're either going to have to rip the rows off and redo them to correct your spacing, or you're just going to be stuck with rows that are uneven. So I'm going to speed up this placement here a little bit, and then we will come back and talk about the placement and working around the handle on this tumbler. You can use the same practices that I'm going to talk about with other tumblers or products that have handles in the same way. Now with the pattern for this coffee mug, I created it so that the rows aligned with the handle. Depending upon the spacing of your stones, you may need to make adjustments. The top handle, there will be 2 rows where there's about 5 stones that are missing. And depending upon your alignment, if your alignment might not be the exact same as mine, so you may need to make a slight bit of adjustments to get it so that the 5th row aligns with this handle. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start with the pattern and placing the stones on the right side of the handle, and then I'm going to work this pattern all the way around to the other side of the handle. Then, like we said, just continue following the pattern, placing the stones in the same color order until you get to the handle. All the stones in the row should align with this portion of the handle. Then on the next row, I'm going to start working from kind of like this first heart, working towards the handle. And then remember, at the handle here, there is a section of 5 stones that is also missing. So I'm going to work from that heart up to the handle on the right side. And then I'm also going to work the heart on the other side, on the left side, work that portion of the pattern up to the handle as well. The rhinestones here on this line do not go under the handle. It's the next row that they will go under the handle. So then I'm just going to work this in a small section following the color order of the pattern. And I know it's a little bit hard to see with the angle underneath the handle here, but it's literally the exact same. I'm just going to work this small section of maybe like 30 stones, and I'm going to work it from right to left. And in doing this, working in this small section, it's going to help me make sure that I'm able to keep this row in my alignment where I'm placing them under the handle, that I'm able to keep this row straight as well. And if you need to, just go back and make manual adjustments to ensure that this row underneath the handle is straight with the rest of your pattern. Then here is a little bit of progress of what the pattern looks like as we continue to go. You can start to see how that 3D effect with the darker stones underneath the lettering makes it kind of look like it is popping out. Then when you get down to this bottom part of the handle, you are literally going to work this the same exact way that you did the top part. Place your line of glue, work your rhinestones in there so that they are fitting. Again, if your alignment is not the exact same as mine, it is okay to not put stones where they don't fit. Don't force the stones in there if they're not fitting. Then spots like this are another reason why I love using the syringes to place my glue. I can get it into the tight little spaces where I need it, and still get in the right amount of glue and not be using too much glue than what I need. So just like we've been doing, continue placing your stones in the same order as the pattern. Under the handle, you might need to make a few turns in the way that you're holding it so that you can get the stones in there. But again, if your placement is not lining up exactly, don't try to cram the stones in there. Just place them how they are fitting with your pattern. It is okay if you have a small amount of space here where it's not completely covered with rhinestones. It's going to be under the handle, and you're not really going to see this area anyway. So now that we are down to the last few rows, here is the last tip that I wanted to share with you on this tumbler. You want to make sure that you have enough room to place all of your rhinestones in these last few rows and that none are going to be hanging over the edge. So what you can do is I'm just using kind of like this rhinestone tray, and I'm going to put it up against the tumbler and make sure that all of the rhinestones in that last row are hitting that tray at the same spot, that I don't have high spots, I don't have low spots. You can also use a pencil and make yourself a little tick mark that will go all the way around the tumbler, and that line will be straight. You can use that as a placement guide. A good idea to kind of like dry place your rhinestones. Place a couple rhinestones in those last few rows without putting your glue down first, to make sure that you're going to have enough room. And again, that last row, none of those rhinestones are hanging over the edge. If they end up that they're hanging over the edge, you're not going to want to place that row. When they are over the edge, they have the potential to catch on things, and then they have the potential to come off easy. So now you have all of the tools, tips, and tricks to make your own beautiful tumblers. Again, don't forget all of the products used in today's video, like our Bling Your Things line of rhinestones, can be found on our website, blingyourthings.com. There will be a link to all of the products in the description down below. And if you found this video helpful, don't forget to give it a thumbs up, as well as subscribe to our channel. And if you make this tumbler yourself, I would love to see a picture. You can share it over in our private Facebook group, which is Bling Your Things Rhinestones. And don't forget to agree to the questions to be accepted into the group as well. We do share other tips and tricks in that group. We have a large community of people that are always willing to share their ideas as well as their tips and tricks as well, and we would love to have you as a member over there. That here is what our finished tumbler looks like. It is so pretty. I love how the letters kind of hop off the tumbler, as well as we have the multicolor different rhinestones with the little hearts.